Welcome back to our discussion of the unification principle. I'm your host, Tyler Hendricks. In our last session, we learned that in order to manifest our original value, we need to direct our desires toward the good, according to the conscience, and following the God-centered four-position foundation, based on loyalty, fidelity, and filial piety. This is the standard that can guide our lifestyle to achieve true human happiness. But we all admit that we need to do some growing to get to that place. How do we grow? Is it by our own self-discipline? Does it just come down from God's grace? How do we reach full maturity? This session begins that discussion. Now, God works by order, law, and principle. We've already seen that. So by all His methods are discoverable by science. When creating the heavens and the earth, God worked through principles. He didn't create just by the force of His will or by magic. In fact, He created all things over a great expanse of time, according to certain ideas and concepts and rules that can be expressed mathematically, utilizing the faculty of the intellect. He also invested His energy, and He sought to express beauty, expressing His will and His heart. The unification principle embraces science. Science and religion have the same purpose. Albert Einstein said that science without religion is blind, but religion without science is crippled. Today, the Big Bang Theory is widely recognized as an explanation of the origin of the cosmos. It claims that the universe began as a single point, referred to as a singularity, which exploded nearly 15 billion years ago. It states that the universe prior to the Big Bang was simply a state of energy, and this energy triggered the explosion. The universe has continued to expand and will continue to expand further. The approximate age of our Earth is estimated at 4.6 billion years. The appearance of the most primitive life forms is believed to have occurred 3.5 billion years ago. So God has spent a great deal of time to create human beings, starting from the lowest stages and gradually progressing to higher stages of existence, from the subatomic to the atomic, molecular, unicellular, plant, and finally animal stages. This theory combines evolution and creation. Scientists recognize that questions regarding the origins of the Big Bang are ultimately beyond the realm of human science. As a result, nearly 40% of American scientists retain strong religious convictions. God has not been resting since the creation of the universe. He continues to reveal His creative nature even today. He continues to participate in the cycles of nature, the birth and death of organisms, and in the course of human history. And so, He is not a God who resides outside the creation as a transcendent being. He is omnipresent, existing both within and without, transcendent and yet immanent. The 6 days set forth in the first chapter of Genesis actually represents 6 stages of the universe's creation. These correspond to the 6 epochs defined by modern science: the Azoic, Archaeozoic, Proterozoic, Paleozoic, Mesozoic, and Cenozoic eras. So the authors of Genesis emphasized 6 days in order to identify the 7th day as a day of rest. Having been taken away, as they were, into captivity by the Babylonians and forced into cruel slave labor, the Jewish scribes wrote down Genesis in the midst of a very painful experience. It was in essence a plea for their liberation from suffering. The process of God's creation proceeded for 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested, they wrote. He also commanded that no person should work on the seventh day. Therefore, we too should rest on the Sabbath in order to honor the day of God's rest. Just as God's creation developed over a given period of time, the principle points out that all created things each require a period of growth. No plant becomes a tree as soon as it sprouts. No baby becomes an adult as soon as it is born. All the phenomena that occur within the created world bear results only after a set period of time. This is because all things were designed for a specific period of growth in order to reach maturity. All things, in the course of maturation, pass through 3 ordered stages of growth, which we call formation, growth, and completion. Human beings also pass through formation, growth, and completion stages on our way to maturity. During the process of growth, things are meant to grow in accordance with the principle itself, actually in an autonomous manner. During this time, God, as the ultimate supervisor, manages the growth indirectly through the principle. And God relates only with the results of the growth. The principle refers to this as the realm of God's indirect dominion, the realm of dominion over the results of the principle. However, human beings were created uniquely. What is unique about us? We are to reach maturity, not only by the independent force of the principle, but also by fulfilling a given portion of our own responsibility. Let's examine God's words to Adam and Eve. He said, "In the day that you eat of that fruit, you will surely die." So this meant that the decision to obey and not eat the fruit, or to disobey and eat the fruit, was never God's decision. It was Adam and Eve's decision. Thus, our completion is not dependent solely upon God's power. God didn't give a commandment to any other animals, any other creations, just to us. He gave us human responsibility. We need to fulfill that to become complete. The fact that human beings were created to only reach perfection upon the completion of personal responsibility indicates that God's ultimate desire was to bestow upon us a degree of creative potential akin to His own. Thus, He gave human beings a portion of responsibility that even He Himself could not interfere with. It was for the purpose of bestowing upon humanity the right to stand in the position of creator and exercise dominion over the rest of creation, just as God exercises dominion over humanity. Truly, we are created in His image. Herein lays the unique and vital feature of the unification principle. Religions are divided into 2 categories, self-reliant and salvific. Self-reliant religions preach personal responsibility concerning salvation. Buddhism is one such example. Salvific religions preach the need for either a God or a Savior in order to achieve salvation. Christianity is an example of that. The unification principle expresses the need for cooperation between God and man and woman in order for salvation to come about. Perfection is achieved only when human beings fulfill their portion of responsibility in addition to God's responsibility. Thus, for example, the benefits of Christ's sacrifice on the cross come by God's decision, but whether to believe and reap those benefits or not is left up to us. Upon the completion of the human portion of responsibility, we will come to reside in the realm of God's direct dominion. The realm of God's direct dominion refers to a state of living in unity of heart with God, as a perfected man and woman who come together to form a family four-position foundation, wherein they engage in a life of goodness while exchanging love and beauty. Such human beings would live in harmony as unique members of the same body, all receiving signals from a central nervous system, as it were, and all understanding the heart of God, knowing His will, and fulfilling the purpose of creation in perfect accordance with it. This acquisition and experience of Emmanuel in our lives, which means God with us. How wondrous it is to be able to say, God is always with me. God eats, God sleeps, comes and goes, is glad or sad together with me. How wonderful that is. That is God's purpose, and that is the reality of the direct dominion. I hope that each of you can reside within the realm of God's direct dominion and become Emmanuel, moving when God moves, resting when He rests. Now we come to the question of life after death. We may live a wonderful life for 100 years, but is that all there is? In us is a bigger horizon, a desire for life beyond life. But how can we be sure about what that life will be like? We will discuss this in our next session. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.